Thanks for joining us for the Customer Experience Podcast. My name's Troy Batchelor, and we're going to be discussing client-centric best practices, tools, and ideas with today's top facility management leaders. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please be sure to share it on any of your social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. If you have ideas for future podcasts or future interviews, please be sure to email me, Troy Batchelor at FrenchCompanyLLC.com, and I look forward to getting your feedback. Enjoy.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Tom. I appreciate you jumping on a call with me. I know that you have kind of a hectic schedule, and it's good to hook up with you, but I appreciate you participating in the podcast. We're always welcoming new folks to the podcast from different backgrounds, different industries, primarily, obviously, facility-related type things. But if you would just take a few minutes and kind of introduce yourself.
Well, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I'm in facilities. That's why we're having this conversation. Yep. And I have been doing retail. I was in retail facilities for about 18 years. Worked for a company called US Maintenance, became USM, which is now EMCOR. And we managed, I was a senior account manager on many of the big box accounts, such as Harbor Freight, Dollar General, just to name a few, and managed a few other accounts like Bed Bath & Beyond, Bye Bye Baby, Starbucks. The list goes on and on. And
sure. Yeah, they're a great company.
Doing that, working for a Fortune 500 company, doing the facilities in retail was the primary contact with the corporate liaison, so to speak, with Dollar General and Harbor Freights and a few other accounts, which I enjoyed immensely. Now I'm working kind of on the other side of the spectrum. I'm working at corporate for a small company in Delaware. We do self-storage, and I'm the facilities manager for corporate. So now it's guys are kind of
now you see the other side of the desk, right?
Exactly. It's not exactly. I've always said, I could work at corporate at PetSmart or Petco. I do this, that, and the other thing. It's not as easy as it appears.
So tell us a little bit about some of the best practices that you particularly used in the field, because you managed obviously a number of different accounts, and obviously the labor that, the labor that kind of went and took care of those particular accounts. Kind of how did you help manage those details? I think that it would be an interesting perspective.
The one thing that I've learned, and I still have to tell myself, I even told myself today, is that if they're all priorities, there are no priorities. You have to set your schedule, set your day, even though there are fires. I've had my fireman, we chatted a few minutes before our interview. I've had my fireman hat on all week. It's been a rough week, but you can't, you have to set your own expectations. You can't immediately tell the client, hey, we're going to fix this now, because chances are we may not fix it. We may not repair it immediately. You have to take a step back, take a breath, and say, hey, get with you, whether you're subbing out work or whether it's your own staff or whether it's yourself. When can I actually expect this to get completed? And communicating with the client. My biggest pet peeve is communication. And that's some of the clients that I've dealt with also say, hey, I just want an update. I don't expect everything to get done immediately, but Tom, let me know when it's going to get done, and so I can let my team know. And it's communication and not rushing to conclusions, because
and managing those expectations, both of your team as well as the client. I think that it's really important to be able to manage those expectations. And you're right. I think you said something very unique that a lot of people don't necessarily do. It's very easy to fall into that reactionary trap, right? And you're constantly just reacting to the fires or the emails, and you're not actually making forward progress. So that's
you're giving them lip service, and I caught myself just doing it recently, and it's the constant phone, tablets, whatever. You're always getting phone calls or emails or texts, and it's hard not to immediately respond. And it's something that everybody can grow on. everybody can row on that particular, hey, I'd rather give the right answer than a quick answer.
Now, how did you originally get into the facilities industry?
Purely, literally by accident.
Okay.
I didn't go to school for business or facilities. A friend of mine was working at USM and said, hey, I was still going to school at the time. We're looking for part-time work. Sure, I'll make a couple dollars. And it's something I had a knack for. Obviously, I've been doing it for almost 2 decades now. And
Yep.
it's a weird thing when I didn't know I was going to be a janitor when I grew up, but I am.
Well, and you know, I think a lot of times that particular part of the industry is looked down upon, and it is really one of the more important parts of the industry that tends to get ignored. To be honest,
it is, and what I'm dealing with right now, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm trying to find in-house maintenance techs, and I'll tell you, it is whether it's an age thing, but there's unfortunately the folks who are going to school, they're not going to school to work with their hands these days. And it's
Yep.
difficult. It's from, you may see it from a more global aspect, from big box clients, things of that nature, but there's not a lot of people who like to work with their hands on fixing hot water heaters, patching roofs. It's an unfortunate.
We're finding it in our industry too. I mean, it's a tougher challenge where because technical skills aren't taught as much in school from the high school level
Right.
through college, the technical trades are tending to dwindle because, you know, there was the big .com thing and then the internet thing, and now there's this gig economy. Gig economy is something that's kind of taken over, where people are driving an Uber car, or they are able to take surveys online for money, or actually there's a couple of apps that you can actually perform surveys for. They're shipped. There's all these now home delivery companies that are out there that, you know, people are working part-time and they're making good money, and not necessarily having to turn a wrench or, like you say, clean a floor or run a buffer or something like that. It makes it a very unique challenge. Our technicians repair shopping carts, and they travel to some degree, and that industry, again, it takes a technical knowledge. I mean, you have to be handy, obviously,
Correct.
to be able to do it. But you're right. It is a tough economy. But I think, you know, it's funny when I ask you that, and I ask a lot of people about how they got into the industry. It's funny how the small decisions we make lead us to larger, you know, longer term careers and things of that nature. We fall into something we like and we tend to stick with it. And then we kind of stick in that same industry as we go along. So I'm always interested to hear people's backstories. Tell me, kind of think through what advice would you give yourself from an industry perspective if you did have that chance to go back and give yourself advice 20 years ago?
Go to tech school. A little bit more with my hands.
That's right.
One
of my interviewers said, "Run." That's what I would tell them.
That's a heck of a question, and because retail is so funny. In 2018, almost 2019 already.
Yep.
I didn't know that we'd be closing down Macy's and JCPenney's, and it's affected USM. It's one of the reasons why I look for another job. I'm like, hey, we're losing accounts left and right. I have to get into trying to find something else, because it's a sad state of affairs. But that's not really. I think I would give myself advice a little bit like I alluded to earlier. Nothing. We're not saving lives. A lot of clients, I've seen a lot of people burn out in this industry, whether they're in the field, whether they're at corporate, whether they're on the front lines, just because it is a high pressured industry.
So one of the things, you know, and I kind of see your role now obviously managing on-site field techs and things of that nature. Talk to me about kind of how you set a standard for them. I mean, it's still a customer experience, right? To make sure that the properties are maintained, all that kind of stuff. Tell me kind of how you, how long have you been with them now, Tom?
Just 7 months. So it's still.
So you're still new to that role. And I think that's a great place to be, in the fact that, one, you changed from, yes, you were in the industry, but now you're flipped tables and now you're managing those multiple properties and managing other services and managing field techs, but similar in the fact that you have to manage expectations. Kind of give some advice as to how you attacked that when you first started there. Well,
it literally, you alluded to, went from a Fortune 500 company to a family-owned business, which there was structure for the business. They've been around for quite some time. Sentinel Self-Storage.
Right.
However, there was some maintenance expectations, but what I'm still in the middle of, literally just reworking hours on site, reworking actual what these guys do. Hey, if Dennis is going to be at site ABC for 8 hours, what the heck is he doing all day? And just not necessarily, tracking what they do, talking to the managers. Hey, is Dennis doing everything that he should be doing for 8 hours, or should we send him to another site? We have down the road where we have it's literally I'm creating the processes and the procedures.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
And let's talk about kind of how you keep yourself motivated. One of the things you mentioned is that you really love what you do. And you mentioned that even in our initial phone call. And so what is it that you love about what you do, and kind of what keeps you motivated?
Right now, I was kind of at a stale point, my old career.
Okay. We all reach those.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. Not to say anything bad about my former employer, but just kind of reached a stale point and wanted something new. And right now, the folks who I work with, the team, I guess some people are meant for a smaller company. Everybody's not meant for that Fortune 500 company where they are employee ABC,
right,
or get an employee number. Where I work directly with the president, the vice president, the owner on a daily basis. And what I really enjoy is that the ideas that I bring to the table are fresh, and they might something that they may not have thought of. The positive reinforcement is something that is refreshing, and just being a part of a team, because at the end of the day, I'm the maintenance manager.
You feel like, I think what I hear you saying is you feel like you make much more of a difference there, and that's recognized. And I think that's a big part of whether you're a small company or a big company. It's important to recognize that in others.
Correct. That's exactly right. And just the feedback and just the personal one-on-ones with everyone, whether it be the managers, the on-site techs. It's not sitting behind a cube or a desk jockey, so to speak. So I've been there 7 months. I've never had the same day twice.
And you never will. That's the nature of kind of what we do. It might not be directly retail, but it is retail.
Correct.
I've always said people love or hate retail. There's really no in between.
No.
And you like the change in environment, you like the interaction, and you like the pace. And a lot of people who really love retail, that's what they like, that customer interaction, that kind of thing. And those that don't like retail, they would prefer not to have to interact with that many people on a regular basis. Now, have you had any mentors or anything like that as you've grown through the industry?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Tell
There
us about that.
quite a few, a lot of them. I, my one supervisor, I didn't do it. I didn't do something right, and words of wisdom I still live by. He said, Judd, I don't want to get in trouble, but this is what I did. He said, Tom, adults go to prison. They don't get in trouble. You couldn't have done anything that wrong. You can't be
That's a great perspective. Right. Unless you killed somebody or robbed somebody and you're not going to go to jail, you're going to live through it.
Exactly. It's kind of just what we alluded to earlier, like take a deep breath and okay, everybody messes up. Did we lose the account? No. Okay. Let's figure out what to do. And yeah, and again, I think just the high pressure. Another one of my I've traveled to different clients with another gentleman who just kind of taught me how to have fun with this. Not be too serious and just take a step back and
Yep.
Hey,
we tend to take ourselves and life a little too seriously. We're all going to end up in the same place. And
that's right.
Nobody in my mind, or nobody that I've ever met, got up this morning and said, man, I'm going to try to do a terrible job today. That's my goal. Nobody ever wakes up like that I believe. I truly think everybody wants to try to do their best. Some may not be fitted for the place that they are, or the position that they are, and those you try to help find things that they'll enjoy. And that's always an aspect of running or managing people. But the majority of people really want to get up and do the right thing and do their best.
Absolutely. The other piece of advice, actually, one of my clients gave me, and I don't know if I don't want to name names, but
that's okay. Yeah.
He said, Tom, I like you, but I never want to talk to you. He said, you're a good guy. You can come down to the quarterly meetings, and whenever I talk to you, it's a problem.
That's right.
He said, if I want to talk to you, I'll talk to you about a Philly cheesesteak or something like that. I don't want to talk to you. It just gets back to the invisibility of facilities. Everything should be seamless and look good and be good.
Absolutely. What did you see that made that change in the facilities industry over the next 5 to 10 years? How do you see it changing?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's not that we're losing the, say, old school stores, the Macy's, the J.C. Penney's, the Kmart's. But if you look at Business Insider or any websites, a couple of a couple of the stores that I worked with on a one-on-one basis, the dollar stores, the Dollar General, the Harbor Freights, there was just a Harbor Freight got built about 10 miles away from here, and Dollar General, I think, just opened. I forget the number of store. I followed them on Indeed or LinkedIn. I'm sorry. It's not the bigger stores. It's the customer. It's not the Walmarts either. It's the stores like the Harbor Freight where the customer can get a little bit more for their dollar.
But even in that transition, let's bring it back to the customer experience. All of those details that we're talking about from the big box, the floors being clean, the lights being working, all of that stuff, all the details still matter to that customer experience and still make a difference. And it's changing how us as facility people manage locations, manage labor, manage third parties. What technology are we using and adopting to make ourselves much more efficient so that we can transition out of those big boxes where we have guys spending 8-10 hours a day in the Sears or the Macy's or whatever, to now they're going to a Harbor Freight where they can get a store done in a couple of hours. So now I keep that team busy, right? Because you can't do the floors in the middle of the day when the customers are there.
Correct.
So those are always challenges that we're always working through, right?
Absolutely. But that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it
the fun challenge. That's the fun challenge.
Scheduling and then you have to schedule everything on which convention, yeah, everything's at night, and not a lot of. That's a whole other half an hour we can talk about the schedule.
I was going to say logistics is not my favorite thing in the world. But anyway, you're right. That's all we could spend a ton of time talking about scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So what kind of parting words do you have, Tom? Anything you want to share with anybody? We're going to put your contact information below the podcast. And
Okay,
so that if anybody wants to visit the website and reach out to you via LinkedIn, they can send you an invite. If some of our folks that listen from Prism or Specs that are in the self-storage industry, I know that you would love to have them reach out to you and share some information or potentially join your group. I think that would be excellent as well, right?
Yeah, and I have, and I'll later on this afternoon. You had mentioned anyone else? One of my mentors, actually, I mentioned our conversation, and he's probably has about 40 years of experience in this industry. So
oh, great!
I'll shoot you his contact information. But I really appreciate you having me on. And like I said before we even started talking, I was talking to the president of my company. I said, hey, if you get bored of me rambling about this, that, and the other thing about facilities at work, you can listen to me first online talking about work. But
we'll make sure when we post the podcast, we'll make sure you send the link and share it on your profile as well. We always appreciate you sharing it on all the different social media things. So
okay, yeah, it's great.
And share some best practices. So Tom, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you on the podcast. All right.
Yeah. Good luck, and we'll keep in touch via LinkedIn.
Hey, thanks for joining us on today's podcast. Look for us every couple of weeks. Be sure to subscribe. Also, please share with everyone you know on all of your social media platforms. We would appreciate the promotion. And if you have ideas for guests or topics, we'd love to hear from you. Email me at troybatchelor@frenchcompanyllc.com, and we'll see you on the next podcast.